Just a morning. The smell of gasoline and cheap cologne rushed through Tony Gagnati's nose as he rounded a corner on the sidewalk. New York City was a big place, at least to most people, he thought, but not to him. To Tony, New York City was nothing. It was like a kid's playground, and he's the overgrown teenager trying to fit on the swings. Normally, Tony didn't walk, but for some reason, the bright, sunny day got him in the mood to walk to his restaurant. About half a block away, he decided to step into a new Fit Right clothing store. As he walked in, he merely glanced at the store and knew he hated everything. Tony walked further into the store and came upon a mirror to check himself out. The man staring back at him was about 6 foot, which was tall for his Italian family, had brown eyes that his mom had always said looked like chocolates, dark brown hair that he always gelled back, and one long scar running from the middle of his cheek to his eyebrow. His tanned face was chiseled like someone carved it from stone. He wasn't fat or skinny, but normal weight, and he had oddly perfect teeth. Tony left the mirror and went quickly to look at the suits. Even though he knew he would hate them all, Tony was very happy with his Domenico Vacca custom-made suit. He knew no suit in the store compared to his $6,700 suit, which was black with a red tie. He was making his way out the door when one of the ladies stopped him and said, "Nice shoes. Where'd you get them?" Tony looked down at his black dress shoes and said, "I'm not sure, but not here. I know that." Tony started walking to his restaurant again, but was thinking a little about the lady who confronted him. He usually didn't notice people unless they were important, but that lady carried herself like she was important, and Tony hated that. People trying to stand out with no purpose are just fools, he thought. Every day, people around this city are getting jumped or shot for acting out and being obnoxious. Tony reached his restaurant and walked inside with an immediate rush of classic Italian burnt cheese and pepperoni pizza smell. His hostess greeted him as he walked past the waiting area. Tony stopped next to the hostess stand and took a look around the restaurant. It was dim with red-painted walls, edged with dark wood. The rug was also dark red with odd diamond designs, and the booths were wooden with red tables. Tony always had an odd obsession with the color red. The color red always gave him a comfortable feeling that came over him like a warm blanket in the cold of winter. He made his way to his office, and he walked through the door. It was not shocking to see Jim Giangotti, the fat, short, 5-foot uncle, and Eli Giangotti, the tall and also plump father of the family, sitting in Tony's leather chair behind his desk. "Hey you," Eli started. "You were a little late today. What, no car? You collect so many of them. You don't drive at least one to work." Tony shrugged and said, "Could you get your feet off my desk?" Which he hated. Tony hated dirt on anything he owned, growing slightly paranoid about it after a while. Yeah, sure, whatever. While I'm at it, I'll just clean the desk and vacuum your floor for you." Jim smirked. He was always a suck-up. "Good one," he said. "I paid for this restaurant. I could do whatever I want, understand, Tony?" Eli said, filling with his gold cigarette lighter. "Yeah," Tony replied. He never spoke when he didn't need to and kept a lot of thoughts to himself. To Tony, speaking was like an art. It defines people. He felt that he always had to be careful, speaking with words, tones, and expressions. Lying to Tony was a horrible form of communication that ruins people. Like a red paintbrush going over the Mona Lisa. You could easily judge a person with one sentence. "Good, now we have a little business to take care of," started Eli. "There are some people starting rumors about us. Not good ones either. What I want to know is, who started them?" Eli paused to make sure Tony understood. "Okay, keep going," Tony said. "What I want you to do is investigate. Ask around. Once you find out what's going on, you tell me right away. Do you understand?" "Yeah," Tony said. "Good. Now, you can start with this schmuck, Dennis O'Reilly. He's the Irish punk who might know exactly who started these rumors. For all we know, this O'Reilly family could, be the start of these rumors, concerning their history with our family. Tony only knew so much about the O'Reilly versus Gengatti disputes. They were before his time. The most he knew was that the rivalry started over a turf war that got way too bloody to handle. The cops couldn't control it, the mafias were too strong back in the 1940s. He knew now that whatever these rumors were could possibly cause another dispute, but he was thinking too ahead of himself. Got it. Any information you need on Dennis? Tony asked enthused. All I have is where he lives, Eli said, starting to get distracted, but about what, Tony had no idea. He has an apartment in Queens. The building number is 167. It's off of Unionville Turnpike. It's a big brick building. You can't miss it. His apartment number is 234. He's usually home around 10 a.m. to 11. And it's 9 a.m. now, so you should get moving. One more thing you should know about this guy. He's got a temper, most like Irish do. So be careful. Now go. Tony left without a word and started walking past the hostess desk. He didn't care how Eli got his information, or if it was even correct. All he was thinking is how shot this day was going to be. A little later in the morning, Tony Gengatti had arrived at the apartment building with mixed feelings they had never experienced before. He ran his fingers through his gelled back hair. He had no idea how to go about this. Everything about this apartment gave him a bad, jittery feeling in the pit of his stomach. He looked out his driver's side window across the street at the apartment building. This guy Dennis could prove more trouble than his usual jobs. For starters, the Gengattis and O'Reillys had a rough history together, with a few gang wars. This guy in there might want to start another fight, which is why he had started spreading rumors. Although Eli wasn't specific with his information, this all seemed like a bit rushed. Usually Eli had the whole scoop, but he hadn't told Tony on what the rumor was. This guy Dennis might just be another one of his money hits that just hadn't picked up. If so, then why even lie about it in the first place? Another added plus is that some of his family might be living there with him, and that would make getting any information a lot harder than it should be. Tony brushed some dust off his black dashboard and reclined in his black leather car seat. This is stupid, he said aloud as he fiddled with his car door handle and opened it. Closing the door carefully behind him, he checked his watch, 10:30 a.m. He hated being rushed, but when he had to, there was no other choice. Tony looked across the street and started walking towards the brick apartment building. As he got closer, the building looked older and more out of shape than he expected. All of the bricks were paled, and there was an orangey sponge-like mold starting to grow upon it. The whole exterior needed refurbishing. He saw number 167 on the door in old, gold numbering. All he really wanted to do was clean the whole building up. He knew even before he went through the door that it was going to be a big mess. Walking through the door, Tony wasn't surprised. The whole reception room was a mess. The couches against the wall had paled their blue color away with age, and the rug was mapped with dirt. The red wallpaper was peeling off the wall in multiple spots all over the room. He started making his way to the elevator and saw an out-of-order sign on it, which has probably been there for a good few years. Looking closer, he saw that the elevator door was corroded in rust, and a few of the sign's letters were peeling away. He sighed and started up the stairs, the floor creaking with every step. This better be worth it, he said. Hey, Uncle Dennis, it's 10:45, you better hurry up, shouted Connor, glancing at the kitchen clock. Dennis wrestled with his pants, looking at the clock in disbelief. He was never late, and he won't start now. Hey, Connor, give me a hand to get my shoes, he shouted back. Turn off the damn TV unless you want to pay for it. Dennis heard the click of the TV and the quicker patter of footsteps as he threw on his white t-shirt. Here, Uncle Dennis, Connor said, handing Dennis his shoes with a smile. I also got your car keys. Dennis grabbed the keys, gangling in his face, and looked at Connor. A spitting image of him, even though it wasn't his kid. At 12, Connor resembled more of an 18-year-old with a larger build. Connor had red hair, freckles covering his whole face, big hazel eyes, and a round face. Dennis loved this kid as his own and wished he could see more of him than he did. His brother had been out of town for a few days and needed someone to watch Connor, and Dennis jumped at the chance. Connor, sit down on the couch. I'll be out in a second. I got to drop you off for the afternoon and put you at your aunt's house, so you don't whine or nothing when we get there, okay? Yeah, okay, Connor groaned. Dennis opened his desk drawer and carefully reached for his Taurus PT-100 handgun. He would never go anywhere without it. He slowly ran his finger around the muzzle. Yep, this is my... An abrupt crash and deep boom of the apartment door cut Dennis off. So not smart, Tony thought. The door made a loud bang that could alert his neighbors to come check it out. Tony quickly took his Beretta 92FS and scanned the room. Just as bad of a mess as the reception room, if not worse. Trash everywhere, and the walls were falling apart completely. Tony's eyes then rested on the couch, and he almost dropped his gun. His feet felt heavy, and it seemed like a train was coming at him, blaring the horn. There, on the couch, was a little kid staring right back at him. Tony barely had enough time to recoil when something sharp whizzed right by his head, forcing him to jump back into the hallway and take cover behind a wall. He had no idea where it came from. He didn't even hear a shot. He peeked around the wall and saw a man wearing a white t-shirt pointing a gun directly at him. Tony ducked back as the gun went off, hitting the wall, where his head had just been, spitting wood onto his blazer. "Come on, Connor, get in my room quickly," the man shouted. Tony took this as his opportunity and fired back. Wheeling on his heel and poking out from the wall, he targeted the man. His finger swept across the trigger and fired. The man dodged a bullet as it hit his bedroom door behind him, and immediately fired shots back towards Tony, who swung back behind his wall. "Get the hell away from me!" the man shouted, followed by another shot which went through the wall right in front of Tony. Tony took the chance to glance back over. Mr. Trigger Happy wasn't near the door anymore. A new shot went off, hitting the edge of the wall right above Tony's head, shrouding him with the breeze. He fell to the ground and blankly fired 2 shots towards the couch. Silence followed. Tony blinked his eyes a few times to clear his vision, got up, and scanned the room. Slowly raising his gun, he made his way to the couch that he shot and looked over. He was dead for sure. 1 bullet had gone through the side of his neck. Shaking a little, Tony searched for an ID. He came upon a driver's license of a Dennis O'Reilly. Well, not exactly to plan. Eli might be a tad upset to find that Tony only got a "get the hell away from me" from Dennis. Muffled footsteps and creaks pattered the ceiling above, and Tony realized that he had to move fast. He quickly started to the door when his stomach sank to the floor. The kid. Sprinting into the bedroom door, he tucked his gun into his pants, like it would make much of a difference to the child, and opened the door. His eyes darted all over the bedroom, but there was no kid in sight. Tony took a step forward and was suddenly toppled over as something fell on him. His arm burned with pain like it was being touched with a fire. Glancing over, he saw the boy sinking his teeth deep into his arm. With nothing else to do, Tony swung his backhand hard into the side of the kid's face. The boy fell hard onto the floor, out cold. His hand burned from the impact, but Tony shook it off. He quickly grabbed the boy off the ground and carried him out of the apartment, sprinting to the stairs. Busting through the front door, Tony ran across the street, without looking, towards his car with the boy over his shoulder. Fiddling with the keys, he pressed the unlock button, and the car responded with a satisfying beep. He opened the trunk, threw the kid inside, and slammed the door. Quickly jumping to his seat, Tony turned the keys to the ignition and pressed down hard on the gas. About halfway down the street, Tony slammed on the brake as a car whizzed by him, the driver screaming, "You idiot!" out the window. But he didn't care. He just realized he put a kid in a car trunk. Quickly pulling to the curb, Tony reached out for the trunk open button under his car seat and ran out to get the boy. Scooping him from the trunk, he then carefully placed him in the back seat, strapping himself into the driver's chair, and drove away. Eli Gingotti watched carefully as Tony exited the room, put his feet back on the desk, and looked towards Jim. How do you feel this is gonna go down? He asked with concern. Jim folded his arms and shrugged. Not sure. Either way, it's a win situation for you. The most brilliant idea I've heard, if you don't mind me saying, boss. Eli grinned and started fiddling with Tony's click pen. Oh yes, this'll work. Either Dennis gets taken out, Tony gets blamed for the hit, we cover our tracks, or Tony gets killed, Dennis lives, we point him in the right direction, possibly make a deal, and the family goes after our head, Don Francis. Then we take charge, Jim asked obediently, fists clenched. Yeah, then we take charge, Eli repeated.